Lesson 1. Before Pharmacy School. Fit. Find the glass slipper. Tip 1. Decide if the lifestyle suits you. The first thing you'll need to do once you're considering pursuing pharmacy is to contemplate if the lifestyle is a good fit for you. Why do you want to pursue pharmacy? Think hard about this. What is at the root of your why? Having this notion rock solid in your head will make the next 8 years, and many beyond that much easier. Committing to a career in pharmacy will require a large investment mentally, emotionally, physically at times, and financially. The clearer you are on what you envision and where you want to make a difference, the more likely you are to succeed. That tenacity and grit will see you through the hardest challenges. Go in with your eyes wide open to everything happening in the field and your vision of the future. 1. Reflecting on your motivators will enable a properly informed decision. Pharmacy school and everything after will be a long, hard slog without something pushing you through to the bitter end. Clarity and focus will prevent giving up. One useful tool is to ask yourself why 3 times. Each time you ask yourself why, it gets deeper into your motivators. Be honest with yourself. Why do you want to practice pharmacy? Because you want to help people. Why do you want to help people? Because your grandma has diabetes, and you want people like her to understand their medications. Why do you want to help people understand their medications? You want people like grandma to understand their medications safely. You are motivated to limit harm and maximize safety for patients. Why do you want this pharmacy job in particular? You want money. Why do you want money? Because you want to travel more. Why do you want to travel more? You want to see the world. Global perspectives inspire you. 2. The market of pharmacy is a tough one right now. In the 1990s, there was a huge need for pharmacists. There were stories of pharmacists switching jobs left and right for the $10K sign-on bonus. People were starting to realize how knowledgeable pharmacists are and where they can contribute to the height of their degrees. The projected market in the 90s was for huge pharmaceutical expansion in anticipation of baby boomers retiring. After those projections went public, schools realized how much money they could bring in by offering pharmacy classes. After all, a lot of them already had medical and nursing programs. It's not that much of a stretch to add pharmacy. Once those programs started pumping out graduates, more schools opened, more pharmacists graduated, and the market oversaturated. The clinical role of pharmacists have blossomed phenomenally, but the dispensing roles have imploded due to the unreasonable and often unsafe demands of large retail corporations. 3. I don't want to deter anyone away from the field that has my heart. My urge to reconsider is not a "you're not good enough to be in my field" thing. It comes from a place of "I've been in your shoes and it is hard but possible" thing. 4. Before you commit, evaluate the current trajectory of the pharmacy industry and decide where you fit in. With the cutback of pharmacists due to overabundance and the shortage of technicians due to lack of financial incentives, expect the two to meet in the middle. More places are utilizing tech programs. Given advanced training, technicians can oversee each other more than ever, reducing the need for pharmacists. On the other hand, this frees pharmacists up to do more clinical, caretaking roles than in the past. Tip 2. Traits of successful pharmacists. Now, let's discuss successful pharmacists. Just as any path in life, there is no single way to be successful. Noting common traits is helpful. A good pharmacist can understand the minutiae of a single or combination of medicines in the context of a given patient. Balancing these two requires attention to detail, as well as big picture assessment skills. These pieces often fit together like a puzzle. Being able to see the forest through the trees is essential. Great pharmacists are strong academically, but also good with people. They need excellent written and verbal communication with nurses, doctors, and patients. I can't think of an avenue in life that does not call for strong communication skills. But when you're caring for the life of another human being, this is an exquisite art. 1. A good pharmacist needs to be attentive, careful, focused, and detail-oriented. There is a big difference between 75 micrograms and 75 milligrams, but the visual difference, mcg versus mg, is easy to miss. A patient could be 100 times overdosed this way. The small picture details are not the only important thing, though. A strong pharmacist needs to keep in mind the bigger picture for all their patients. What are this patient's goals for their health? How can we help them achieve this? A 95-year-old cancer patient may not hope to achieve 0 out of 10 pain control. We can, however, help control their pain enough to see their granddaughter's wedding. Some patients have spiritual beliefs that may mean different care from what you think is best. Jehovah's Witnesses will not accept blood products such as transfusions and may be at higher bleed risks because that eliminates some of our treatment options. Muslim folk hold sacred the pig, which eliminates some porcine-based medications from our treatment options. Treat the whole person. Assume the prescription you're working on is wrong. The minute you assume a prescription is correct, your guard will come down. This complacency will allow mistakes to slip through. Do not underestimate the possibility that it can and will happen to you. 2. Empathy and compassion. Empathy is an essential trait for any healthcare provider. There is a certain amount of empathy required to help a person in need. At the root of everything we do is a patient who is struggling. You do not know everything a person is wrestling internally. Patients may have financial challenges. They may not understand why people keep fussing over them. Caring for their health may not be a priority for them. You don't know the full lens through which a patient is looking. 3. Patience. Have patience with your journey through school and after. Patience with other teachers and healthcare providers. Patience with patients. Patience with the ever-changing landscape of the profession, good or bad, and patience with your own continued growth through this adventure of life. 4. Most good pharmacists are good at puzzles. Not jigsaw puzzles specifically, but seeing how seemingly unrelated things fit together. For example, it is common for patients to have delirium when they've been in the hospital for a long time. When a patient is delirious, it is necessary to address certain things that may seem irrelevant. With delirium, it is relevant to assess sleep cycles, daylight exposure, magnesium, new medications, discontinued medications for possible withdrawal-related symptoms, possible urinary tract and other infections, pain control, medical history, like dementia, and anticholinergic medication use. In their unique ways, all these things can contribute to delirium. Anticholinergics are a category of medication that is known, especially in patients over 65 years old, to contribute to delirium. Their use in general is strongly advised against in this patient population for this exact reason. The American Geriatric Society maintains a list of medications called the Beers criteria for potentially inappropriate medication use in older adults. Keep an eye and an ear out for what is happening around you. Someone else's problem may be connected to the problem you're trying to solve. If not, it may become your problem shortly. If you are in a retail setting, keep that radar on when your technicians are at the window talking with patients. There will be keywords or phrases as well as, "they've been talking a long time," type of radar alarms you will develop if you're paying attention. Be aware when something is happening abnormally. Contrary-wise, there is benefit to single tasking as compared to multitasking. There is one sacred cone of silence that allows focus and careful concentration. 5. It is helpful to have a strong math and science foundation. For the most part, math is largely simple arithmetic, but doses must be accurate. Revisiting the example in number 1 again, 75 mcg versus 75 mg. There is a factor of 100 between the two numbers. You will need to know how to convert decimals. You will need to understand ratios and percentages. If there is 20 grams of fat in 100 milliliters, how many grams of fat are in 250 milliliters of lipid emulsion? Another way to ask the same question is, how many grams of fat are in 250 milliliters of 20% lipids? The required science is complex. You will need a firm understanding of cellular biology, anatomy and physiology, and biochemistry. This scientific background is discussed at length ahead. Vision. Tip 3. Create a vision of your pharmacy school experience. Spend time creating a vision of what kind of pharmacy school experience you want. Are you willing and able to move? Is a top school important to you? What, for you, is a deal breaker? How do you feel about out-of-state tuition? Is there a specific path or experience you desperately desire along with your course? How will your support network support you, near or far? Would you do better with a large or small school experience? 1. Several different companies do studies to rank the colleges of pharmacy. They all review slightly different criteria. Look at the most current rankings and decide where these things factor into your decision-making. A. U.S. News. The methodology of this company's ranking is based exclusively on surveys sent to deans, faculty, and administrators at each school. Their website indicates there was a 40% response rate from the colleges surveyed. The U.S. News results are the most reliable and most commonly cited. The pharmacy programs rely on these results to promote their programs as, quote, top pharmacy programs. They have ranking guides for public health, healthcare management, PA, rehabilitation, veterinary, social work programs, and more. B. Pharmacy Technician Guide. The factors considered for this ranking include 1. 60% was based on NAPLEX pass rates for the previous 4 years. 2. 15% research activity. 3. 10% graduation rates. 4. 10% student-to-faculty ratio and faculty credentials. 5. 5% their discretion. They acknowledge student rankings, extracurricular activities, student organizations, and professional and personal growth opportunities to students. 6. They indicate that the committee that devised this ranking did consider the results of the U.S. News ranking discussed above. C. College Affordability Guide. 1. There is a ranking of pharmacy schools that evaluates the cost to the students. They are specific, but not clear on the criteria that their primary focus is affordability for average to lower income students. They do not simply list all colleges in order of cost. There are some excluded as they are considered outright unaffordable. This ranking evaluates for-profit versus not-for-profit status, Pell Grant recipient rates, use of financial aid, ability to pay loans after graduation, and so forth. If cost is a big concern for you, it may be worth looking at their rankings. They are different from U.S. News and Pharmacy Technician Guide rankings. D. QS Top Universities. QS analyzes worldwide comparison. If you are interested in training out of the country, this is a great perspective. However, a lot of the remainder of this book may be irrelevant. Transferring licensure to the United States from another country is not covered in this book. These rankings are based on academic reputation, employer reputation, research citations per paper, and H-index, a way of measuring both the productivity and impact of the published work of a scientist or scholar. 2. Another important point to assess is where you feel you belong. I mean, physical location and socially. Financial concerns need to be acknowledged, but are not the only consideration. Embedded within the question of relocation is a sub-question about what type of social experience is important to you. Who are you, and who are the type of people with whom you want to be trained? If you have attended undergraduate school in your hometown, you will naturally feel more comfortable than if you had moved away. However, if you identify racially, culturally, ethnically, or gender-wise, seek an environment where you feel welcomed for who you are. All college environments will be differing levels of diverse and inclusive. A lot of pharmacy schools will post the statistics of recent classes in terms of grades, gender, undergraduate degree percentage, and diversity. You may get a better gauge of this during your interview. Please, whatever your cultural filter, take the time to make sure your school experience is a good fit for who you are and who you want to be. Tip 4. Create a vision of your pharmacist experience. Spend time creating a vision of what kind of pharmacist experience you want. Do you know ahead of time that you have a specific interest within the field of pharmacy? Different schools excel in different educational experiences. If you have a specific vision, look for related keywords on their website. Ask questions about your specific interests at the interviews. Call or email and ask their faculty. If you don't have a post-graduation vision, skip ahead to Chapter 4, different pharmacy sites to consider, and then come back. 1. Are you perhaps interested in a dual degree? Some pharmacy schools offer dual degrees in many areas, but common ones include MBA, Master of Business Administration; MPH, Master of Public Health; MHI, Master of Health Informatics; PA, Physician Assistant; PhD, Doctor of Philosophy; JD, Doctor of Jurisprudence. 2. Do you know ahead of time you want to contribute to the fields of oncology, transplant, or emergency medicine? To cater to your experience during and possibly after school, look for schools with large academic hospitals attached. They'll be better suited to meet these training opportunities for you. Are you more in love with rural, independent pharmacy? Outlying mushroom schools are more likely to have staff and educators with experience there. Mushroom, also known as a satellite school. When a school's primary site wants to add students to their roster, they create off-site programs. They can connect with the primary site via online and through video. They rent rooms at another school. These secondary sites are called mushroom schools. For example, I graduated from the University of Minnesota program but attended the Duluth campus. Their motto is, "One college, two campuses." Some classes, like labs, are taught separately. To avoid conflicting experiences, perceived preferences, or favoritism, classes are taught on one campus and broadcasted to the other campus. Some are taught on the primary campus and some on the secondary campus, but sent via interactive television to the other. Setting up education this way requires classroom availability at 2 different campuses and carefully coordinated schedules. It requires adequate technical support and equipment. Research. Required classes. Tip 5. Research your school's exact pre-required classes. There is a standard list of required prerequisite classes for most programs. From school to school, there are some slight differences, but they are largely the same. Research your schools of interest and ensure you've met every requirement before spending your time and money applying. A comprehensive description of many colleges is available on the PharmCast website, the centralized application service many colleges of pharmacy utilize. There is a school directory with information available about all available colleges of pharmacy, including a full list of prerequisite classes. Please note, not all colleges use PharmCast. This website lists website and contact information, class sizes, any satellite classes, which dual degree programs are available, if PCAT is required, discussed at length in Number 7, and what the deposit is once you are accepted. 1. The standard list will take at least 2 full-time years to complete, minimum. These classes typically include A. Biology 101, B. Chemistry 101 and 102, C. Organic Chemistry 1 and 2, D. Physics, E. Calculus, F. Statistics, G. Cellular Biology, H. Microbiology, I. Anatomy and Physiology, J. General Sociology or Psychology, K. Economics, L. Biochemistry. Most colleges will require Chemistry 1 and 2 and Organic Chemistry 1 and 2. Biochemistry is, as you may notice based on the name, the glue that connects biology and chemistry. How does your heart continue beating and your muscles contracting? How does your heart know to rest between beats, and how do muscles know when to stop contracting? Electrolytes like potassium, calcium, and sodium drive all of these. Taking it one step further, how do medications affect all these goings-on inside the body? How can we manipulate the heart rate when a patient's heart is beating too fast? And how can we get muscles to relax when they can't stop contracting on their own? I'm going to take a moment here and give you the basic rundown to everything science. All the pieces and players need to be introduced one at a time, but they all tie together. Are you ready to have your mind blown? 1. Chemistry 1 and Chemistry 2 start at the most basic level, chemically speaking, and introduce the tiniest components of human and non-human life. All living things are comprised of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and a few other atoms. Every atom has a positive, negative, or neutral charge. A difference of charges on one side of a barrier compared to another is called a gradient. These charges are critical for everything that comes after. 2. Organic chemistry. The name implies the chemistry of life forms. It explains how, when these molecules join up with different types of sequences and bond types, they make certain shapes. These shapes are determined by where the charges are within the molecule, edges versus middle. The charges on everything will cause them to interact with the environment around them continually. All these interactions are based on charges. Whichever molecule has the strongest charge gets the say in terms of shapes and interactions. Our primary go-to example of this is water. Water is composed of 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. The hydrogens have positive charges and the oxygen has a negative charge. The 3 particles come together forming a V with a negative charge toward the bottom in an ombre effect. The charge is graded throughout the molecule. If there are 2 molecules of water, the 2 negative oxygens and the 4 positive hydrogens will not want to touch each other. Positive charges repel other positive charges, and negative charges repel other negative charges. Some physics thrown in for good measure. The oxygen of one water molecule will be attracted to the hydrogen of a second water molecule. They stack sort of like cups. This fluctuating charge attraction is how water cohesively sticks together and why drops blob upward instead of outward. Water wants to stay with other water because of the balanced attraction and repulsion of charges. 3. Biology 101 introduces different pieces. It zooms out a few steps to show you how living creatures are made and their composition. Biology lays the groundwork of genetics and basic cell design. After all, everything living is comprised of cells. 4. Cellular biology breaks down cell form and function. Cell bio describes the pieces within the cells, including 1. Walls. How do cells keep certain things in and others out? Answer: proteins and charges. But the full understanding of these comes later with biochemistry. The answer has to do with the difference of charges on one side of a cell wall to the other side. This difference is called a gradient. 2. Organelles. Where is the energy of the cell made and stored? Answer: mitochondria with the aid of charges. 3. How do all these bits fit into the cell? Why are there so many bits? What is the function of each of the bits? Answer: too long to fit here, but you get the idea. 4. How do cells communicate with each other? If your leg is being chewed off by a bear, that is something your brain will want to know and devise a plan to escape. The message of the bear chewing your leg needs to get from your leg to your brain, and an escape route needs to be quickly and efficiently communicated back downward. 5. Biochemistry combines biology and chemistry you've learned, which you can gather from its name. At the molecular level, how are proteins shaped? Why do they behave the way they do? Proteins comprise a large portion of the body functions. Proteins have a charge and continue to interact with their environment. Proteins and the charges of the molecules within them dictate the overall shape. There are a lot of proteins in cell walls. These interactions take us back again to cellular biology and how the cells keep things in and out. It impacts how energy is made, used, and stored in the body. This energy can be harnessed, too, say for voluntary muscle contractions,